Welcome back, folks. Happy whatever day it is. We've got a fun one for you today. What's the coolest part about Flesh and Blood? Is it the gameplay, the Marvel art treatments, that one card art with the picture of the cat mixing the soup? All great answers, but the correct answer is legendary equipment. Flesh and Blood captures the essence of class fantasy and character immersion better than any other TCG I've played, and that is due in no small part to the various armors and weapons you can equip to your hero. So today I wanted to take a look at some of the best equipment in the history of the game and put it all into a top 10 list, because who doesn't love top 10 lists? I tried to make sure most classes were featured on this list and considered everything from competitive viability to overall community reception. In order to curate this list, I used a patented, foolproof, scientific approach known as the Variance Immune Bias Exclusion System. That's right, this list was made with 100% science-backed vibes. Now let's get to it. Before we get to the list, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it! And make sure to get you 10% off a fancy Codex journal with promo code SMASHING10 or by clicking the link in the description. Okay, thanks, love you, now let's go! I have to kick things off with a few honorable mentions because 10 is just too small a number for how many dope equipment are in this game. Dead Threads is the newest premier chest piece from current metagame Scourge, Gravy Bones, providing turn-to-turn resources like most heroes can only dream of. Scowling Fleshbag is a part of what gives Brutes such an awesome armor fridge, giving great block value and disruption on the opponent's turn. Mask of Recurring Nightmares is a part of what gave New such an oppressive endgame, allowing her to fatigue most opponents. Carrion Husk is so damn good it's banned in Living Legend. Teklovasin the Mechnopotent holds the record for largest type line in the game, which is just kinda cool. And Warband of Bologna, because I opened it in the top 8 of the Calling in Memphis, and I'm frankly a little sentimental. Now on to the actual top 10 list, starting with, kicking off this list at number 10 is Valiant Dynamo. Warriors have not traditionally been at the top of the metagame, but that is no fault of their incredible armor suite, especially Valiant Dynamo. Warriors are known for their ability to grind out opposing offense, and these boots are a huge part of that strategy. They have 1 block value as well as the Battle-Worn keyword, meaning they can block and then stick around even after they have 0 defense value. But thanks to Valiant Dynamo's ability, if you attack with weapons 2 or more times in a turn, that durability counter gets removed, allowing you to block with the boots over and over again every turn. And in a game that's all about breakpoints, where the difference between 3 and 4 can be a massive on-hit, having this recursive point of block value every turn is really important for tipping that math in your favor. These might be my personal favorite equipment on the list, but we've got a lot more powerful options coming up, including, coming in at number 9, we have the imposing Ice Shield Stalagmite, Bastion of Isenloft. Guardians are known for their massive armor suite, including shields that put their overall block value way over that of most heroes. Guardians with access to the Ice talent get to equip this massive brick of frozen metal. Stalagmite has 2 block value and the Temper keyword, meaning you get to block with it once for 2, and on a later turn you get to block with it for 1, after which point it will break. But Stalagmite also has the ability of, whenever it defends, it creates a Frostbite token under the opponent's control. If you're playing against a red-heavy deck like Ninja or Fang, and you use this in the middle of their combat chain, it can completely stuff their entire turn. So when it comes to shoring up aggro matchups, Stalagmite is one of the best options Guardians can have, in addition to being one of the coolest looking cards in the entire game. Moving on, the number 8 spot on our list goes to another personal favorite. Have I mentioned I love Runeblades? And that is Grasp of the Arknight. Not often do we get such a versatile and powerful piece of armor. Grasp has 2 block value along with the Battle-Worn keyword, meaning after it blocks for 2 and then 1 on a later turn, it still sticks around to let you use its ability, and oh my god, its ability. It reads, once per turn action, pay 2 resources, create a Runechant token, go again, and this costs 1 more for each Runechant you control. So if you pair this with a weapon that only costs 1 resource to attack, your blue cards can suddenly pitch to send split, arcane, and physical damage, creating incredible endgame states. One of my favorite things in the game is playing as Florian, having your hero ability online, and making it so that a blue gets to pitch for 2 Runechants and attack with a Reaping Blade for 2 arcane and 3 physical off of a blue. Grasp is just one of the best equipment for long games. On to the next one. For our 7th piece of legendary equipment, we've got one of the most unique pieces I've ever seen, and that is the Ranger Headpiece New Horizons. 2 defense value, and the Blade Break keyword means that after this blocks for 2, it's destroyed. And New Horizons has an additional ability where when it's destroyed, it destroys your arsenal cards with it. But while it's up, it has the ability. While you have a face-up card in your arsenal, you have an additional arsenal zone. Can you imagine any other hero just getting access to an additional arsenal zone and being able to set up consistent 6-card hands? Obviously, there are some hoops to jump through, but Rangers have plenty of ways to put face-up cards in their arsenal, allowing for consistent 6-card hands, which is something most classes can only ever dream of. I'm admittedly not much of a Ranger player myself, but I'm always jealous when I'm staring down the opposing side of the table with 2 arsenal zones. Onward with the list. If you are currently liking the video from a subjective standpoint, could you like the video from a physical standpoint? Hello? At our number 6 spot, we've got a piece that went almost completely unnoticed when it was first printed, but is now an absolute metagame staple. I'm talking about the Assassin Ninja Arm piece, Flick Knives. With the release of the Hunted, the brutal power of Flick Knives has really started to show itself. Syndra can essentially guarantee true damage every turn by flicking her daggers and then recurring them with her hero ability. Arachne's various forms look to mark their opponents, so flicking a Hunter's Clave to guarantee a mark has become a staple part of the strategy, as well as some absolutely ridiculous synergies with Kiss of Death. To say nothing of being able to equip the Graphing Calculator or recur the Hunter's Clave from the graveyard. Not only is the power level there, but Flick Knives is just too cool not to include on this list. Alright, we've reached the upper half of today's list, so the competition is about to get heavy. Let's move on with the top 5, starting with our number 5 choice for legendary equipment is one that you can't even play in Classic Constructed right now. That's because every Mystic hero has already achieved Living Legend status, and that is due in no small part to Traverse the Universe. Blade Break 2, when it defends, search your deck for an inner chi, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. If you missed out on the Mistveil era of Flesh and Blood, it's hard to really convey just how powerful these heroes were. Basically, they all had busted abilities that could only be activated with the Inner Chi resource, and this resource could only be obtained by transcending these innocuous little blue instant cards, at which point they could either pitch for a blue or for the 3 Chi required for these abilities. So once you had them in your deck, you had access to some of the most broken hero abilities the game has ever seen, and Traverse the Universe tutored you an Inner Chi from the deck for absolutely free, basically daring your opponents to attack you in endgame states. This was still fairly recent on the Fab timeline, and being tied to the Mystic talent does make it quite restrictive. But Traverse the Universe is a card so powerful, some folks wonder if we would have to ban it in CC before we return to Mistveil. Moving on with, if Command and Conquer is one of the strongest cards in the game's history, it would be impossible not to include on this list the very counter to that card, and that's our number 4 pick, Crown of Providence. This generic headpiece with Blade Break 2 simply reads, when this defends, you may put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, draw a card. At its floor, this card can fix a bricky hand, which is already pretty good. But now let's think about the ceiling, where you've arsenaled a Sink Below. Your opponent attacks with a Command and Conquer. Typically, you would be losing a bunch of value here, but with Crown of Providence, you can block with the Crown, put the Sink Below that's in your arsenal on the bottom of your deck, draw a card, and just take 4 damage. This is a great way to stuff Command and Conquer and keep tempo, and the fact that it has the baseline of just being able to fix your hand makes the cost of inclusion basically a no-brainer in a lot of decks. When games run on as tight of margins as they do in Flesh and Blood, and you need to squeeze out as much possible value from every one of your cards, Crown of Providence is pretty hard to beat when it comes to generic inclusions. Now we're moving on to our top 3, and I am so ready to get blasted in the comments, so let's do it. Our number 3 spot on this list goes to a shining example of perhaps the over-ambition of early elemental design, and that is, of course, Crown of Seeds. If Crown of Providence is the reasonable, balanced headpiece, then Crown of Seeds is that with the knob cranked to, we've made a mistake. Crown of Seeds is Earth-specific, has 0 block value, and has the ability, once per turn instant, pay 1 resource, put a face-down card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck, draw a card, and prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. This card is turbo banned in CC and LL, and for good reason. There is an idea in TCG design where a certain card might limit design space for future cards. This is what Crown of Seeds does to Earth heroes. We've seen what happens when heroes have efficient ways to pair this with other resource outlets. Oldhim could just disrupt the ever-loving hell out of his opponents, or just block a ton of damage with this and Rampart of the Ram's Head, or gain a bunch of life with Count Your Blessings. Doesn't that sound fun? Crown of Seeds should stay banned. But our top 2 equipment are still legal in Classic Constructed, so it's time to reveal the best legendary equipment in the history of Flesh and Blood. Our runner-up is perhaps the most ubiquitous piece of equipment in the history of the game. Ultimately, I couldn't really put it at number 1 because it's not broken. In fact, it's damn near perfectly balanced. And so the number 2 piece of legendary equipment in the game has to go to Fyendel's Spring Tunic. Printed in the first ever set of the game and still played in so many heroes today, Fyendel's Spring Tunic is the go-to when it comes to incremental resource advantage. Tunic has Blade Break 1 with the text, "At the start of your turn, if this has fewer than 3 energy counters on it, put an energy counter on it, and once per turn instant, remove 3 energy counters from Fyendel's Spring Tunic and gain a resource." So if you can spend it efficiently, you basically get a free resource every 3rd turn. So many classes prefer this to their alternatives because it requires no hoops to jump through other than patience and timing. If you're in a grindy matchup and you can use the resources provided, Fyendel's Spring Tunic is basically unmatched when it comes to incremental resource advantage. So if the most popular piece of equipment in the game isn't number 1, what is? In some ways, it kills me to admit this, but the numbers don't lie. The strongest piece of legendary equipment in the history of Flesh and Blood has to go to Stormstriders. Wizards are far from the most popular class when it comes to some of the other heroes we see represented, but there is no denying the power spikes that these boots can provide when the opponent's shields are down. At the time of recording this, Kano is teetering on the edge of Living Legend, and that is only true because of the absurd things Stormstriders allows him to do. If we are looking at absolutely nothing but the numbers, Stormstriders are the most powerful piece of legendary equipment in the history of the game, and that's coming from somebody who's been blazing Aethered for higher numbers than his feeble brain can count. That wraps up today's video. If you think we missed a piece of legendary equipment, please do let us know in the comments. It helps out a lot. We've got so many more equipment and other cards to look at, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode, and as always, have a great day.